What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Man Cave. I'm Raphael Aaliyah.
And I'm John Jackson. Yankees. That's what we're going to talk about, Yankees.
I want to focus specifically on the future of Joe Girardi because I've heard talks of this for the last couple weeks. We were gone last week, but I've heard talks of this. You know, Yankee fans, they get on my nerves, to be honest, and I'm a Yankee fan.
27 rings.
Yeah, but justly this season, especially because of the inconsistency. We're also going to go through the player of the week, my player of the week, Ethan's player of the week, and John's player of the week. That's going to come at the end. But let's jump right into the Yankees and how they're doing recently. I'm going to call it the last 2 weeks. The word has been inconsistency. Because you come back from a road trip where they lost, I believe, one game on a road trip, and then they come home and they do absolutely nothing. They've lost 6 of their last 9.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable to see because they just went through this a couple weeks ago. Then they got back on a nice hot streak where everyone... And here's the talks, right?
Yeah.
If you look at like the top stories through the weeks, it's unbelievable here in New York because it's so unique. Because 4 weeks ago, top story, Yankees selling out. They're going to start selling. They're going to start trading. They got to start rebuilding, blah, 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 blah. 2 weeks ago, top story, okay, the Yankees now are in mode to make the playoffs this season. How are they going to make the playoffs this season? What do they need to do at the trade deadline to make the playoffs this season? Now the talks again. Oh, God, the Yankees, they need to be big sellers again. So it's just up and down and up and down.
That's a great example of what New York is because in New York, we, as baseball, as sport fans in general, take a small sample size and try and judge the whole season. It's 162 games, and you're saying it changed the Yankees, their playoff hopes 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
if
you asked somebody for their playoff chances, it would have gone from like 2% to up to 50%. To back down to now 15%. So it's unbelievable. And the big thing is Joe Girardi going to lose his job if they do not make the playoffs come the end of the season? When I talk make the playoffs, I mean make the ALDS, not make the wild card.
Yeah, the wild card. But 1 game, I don't think so.
If he doesn't make the playoffs, and he's in contract until the end of through the 2017 season. But does he lose his job if the Yankees don't make the playoffs? So we can't tell you that. But do you feel like he should lose his job if the Yankees fail to make the playoffs? Let's say he fails to make the wild card this season.
Well, see, I would let him, no matter what, play out the 2 seasons, play out the rest of this one and next one. And I would really judge on what he does in these next 2 seasons. If he doesn't make the playoffs both years, it would probably make sense to fire him.
Or just not re-sign him after the contract.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, not extend his contract. But if he makes like the ALCS one of these 2 years, if he has a World Series appearance, or God forbid they win the World Series, I don't think that's happening.
You said God forbid.
Yeah, God forbid a 28th ring happens. Then I would obviously keep him if I were in charge. But if he makes even like 2 wild cards, and they lose in both wild cards.
Well, firing a manager has always been a matter of statement as opposed to necessity. There's rarely a time you fire a manager because he's really... I mean, you do fire managers if they're really underperforming.
Sometimes.
But most times it's because...
You want to shake things up.
You want to just... Exactly.
You want to say, we're getting serious now, nobody's safe.
And I agree with it. I don't think Girardi is really at fault, though, in what has been happening. The Yankees are aging as a team. This pitching staff, if anything, has had an up year compared to what they should have been doing. And they're still a very subpar pitching rotation. Ivan Nova's not performing well. Nathan Eovaldi's not performing well. Michael Pineda's not performing well. So you got 3 of your 5 guys. Really, it's CeCe and Tanaka. And Tanaka, in the last couple of years, hasn't been the ace that you wanted him to be. And CeCe Sabathia has been far from anything that you want on the mound.
Yeah, until this year.
Except for this season. So really, the fact that this team is even, I think they're set, 4 games below 500 now?
They've been hovering around 500. 4th, 5th place.
It's still their pitching rotation has been doing better, and the real talk has been on their lineup, which is an aging lineup. But what are you going to do about it? Teixeira's out. Beltran, the fact that Beltran let that ball skid underneath his glove yesterday, is that Girardi's fault? The fact that Beltran doesn't want to hit certain games is Girardi's fault? The fact that A-Rod is under contract for this long and for this much money in the past, and now he can't play because he's, 40, is that his fault? So
I say, from everything you said and just thinking about it, I really don't blame Girardi as much as I blame Brian Cashman. He's the one who's, they did well in 2009, 2007, 2008, 2010, 11, 12, and then once it hit 2013, all these bad contracts started adding up. Brian Cashman wasn't helping. Guys started retiring. Guys started getting injured. Guys got old. So I really laid the blame mostly on Brian Cashman, but you know what? Sometimes a manager has to take the fall for the GM. I don't agree with that, but it's probably
I agree with you. I think you got to live out this contract through the 17th season. There's really no point. You're not going to find a manager that's going to be better than Girardi for this team. If they're not going to make the playoffs this season, their chances are about the same with or without Girardi come the 2017 season.
And then I just want to mention two more things. One, I don't even have to ask Ethan. Ethan has said to me many times that he doesn't blame Joe Girardi. He thinks he's a great manager. I tend to agree with him. I think he's been a great manager for what he's had. For what he's had, he's a great manager.
I know he's a little too to the book and whatever.
Yeah, but I feel that could be good, and it's worked. He's had teams that were, like, I look at 2013, that team won 80-something games. They really shouldn't have won. They shouldn't have been over 500. So he's
a great manager, and he's really done well in turning these players players tend to overperform under his wing.
And that could be maybe the Yankee effect, the pinstripe effect, or it could be just the fact that he's a great manager.
Yeah, the second point?
Yeah, the second point was, not that it was a point, I have heard now, like you said, getting rid of players has been a rumor, and one of them has been Carlos Beltran. Could he have a reunion with the Giants? He went there, the Mets sent him off for Zach Wheeler, just for half a season. They didn't even make the playoffs. So we don't know. Maybe, do the Yankees want to keep him? Do they want to, I mean, he's been doing excellent this season compared to the other seasons.
Well, when you talk about major selling points for the Yankees, really the talk has been about Miller and Chapman mainly.
Yeah.
But I've heard Beltran as well.
Because he only has this season, if I'm not mistaken.
He's done after this season, contract-wise. I don't see them renewing that contract.
Oh, no.
It would make sense, but the part of the problem has been the bat. So what do you get from him, if not prospects? And that's good. You sell Carlos Beltran if you're sure you're not going to make the playoffs.
And that's the tough part. You don't know if you're going to make it or not.
At this point in the season, if I'm going to put everything aside and I'm just going to come out as just, this is my pure opinion and what they should do and probably what they won't do and probably maybe even what they shouldn't do. But this is what I feel they should do, is just call this season quits. And you have guys to sell. You're not going to make the playoffs. Even if you do, you're not going to make the World Series.
And it's all about the World Series.
And you're not going to win the World Series. It's just, that's plain and simple. As a Yankee fan who really wants to see that, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have Carlos Beltran to sell at the end of the season. You're not going to have Aroldis Chapman around at the end of the season to sell. Sell them now. Well, you could still get prospects out of them. Before Aroldis Chapman, God forbid, blows out his arm and nobody wants him, or before Carlos Beltran goes on such a long cold streak that everyone's like, oh, yep, this is Carlos Beltran for you, only comes alive in the postseason, what are we going to give you for him? So before that happens, sell them high. You're not going anywhere this season. Just call this season a lost cause, and it won't be in the future. You're going to look back at this season and say, look at what we got. We got this guy, this guy, this guy. Gotta do it. In my opinion, that's what you gotta do.
100% agree for the Yankees and their well-being. But
let's go to the player of the week. Let's talk about something positive here.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll do mine to start off. Lionel Messi, last night, USA faced in the Copa, Argentina and Messi, and they lost by a lot, 4-0. And Messi was a part of that.
Argentina showed why they were the #1 in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you that.
He had 1 goal, 2 assists. In his last game, because remember, Player of the Week is last Wednesday to technically yesterday because we don't count anybody who's played today.
Well, normally because the show's recorded before.
Exactly. So, in his last game too, same thing. 1 goal, 2 assists. That's a total of 2 goals, 4 assists. He's amazing. He's one of the best players in the whole entire world in soccer. And he's definitely deserving of the Player of the Week. Unfortunately, they beat the United States. We're not happy about that, but he's a great player.
The United States, they're getting better, and they're really improving, and you could definitely see them doing well in the future. But to say that they were going to beat the number 1 team in the world, they came out, they played like the number 1 team in the world. Messi played like the number 1 player in the world.
All right.
Unbelievable.
Say yours, and I'll keep Ethan's for the end.
Okay, so my Player of the Week is LeBron James. I was the first one to voice my opinion, so I got LeBron James.
Yeah.
LeBron, let's go with his stats first, because you all know why I picked him, but let's go statistics. 41 points in Game 6 and 27 points in Game 2, 11 assists and 11 assists, and 8 rebounds and 11 rebounds respectively in Game 6 and 7. Phenomenal play. Right. He has 3 blocks in both games, which is really good.
Big blocks, too.
And big blocks.
Steph Curry just pounding it down. Oh my gosh, those are big blocks.
LeBron is unbelievable. I might not like him, but I respect him. And he did what he had to do. He brought a championship to Cleveland. Triple-double in Game 7. If you want to hear more about why he won this Player of the Week, check out our NBA video on Game 7. It just says it all, honestly. So I'm not going to dwell on it on this one because we talked a lot about it in that episode.
So now, Ethan's pick. I told him anybody but LeBron or Messi since we picked him. He picked LeBron, and then he stuck with LeBron. And you know what? That's correct, Ethan. You're right. LeBron is deserving of 2 Player of the Weeks. That's how good he was. LeBron was
you said in the MVP, you said in the NBA episode, that he deserves
2 or 3
MVPs.
So you know what?
So if he can't get it in real life, he'll get it here in the man cave. He'll get our 2 Player of the Week. And again, for more on that, go to our NBA episode. Once again, if you guys want to give your Player of the Week, if it doesn't differ from LeBron, or if it does,
or maybe
leave it in the comment section.
LeBron.
Next week also, leave it in the comments section. We'll give a shout out if we think it's deserving of. So.
Yeah. Or you can check us out on Twitter at ManCaveNYSports.
Alright, so we'll see you again next week. I'm Rafael Alia.
And I'm John Jackson, and this has been The Man Cave.